and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. The big story of the hour. Pakistan has once again tried to spin yet another lie at the United Nations Security Council. The Pakistani representative attempted to paint a fake picture about the Kashmiri women being quote-unquote oppressed in Jammu and Kashmir. India ripped apart these hollow claims in fitting fashion. Part 1 of India's response to Pakistan's delusional tirade was Pakistan's airstrikes on its own civilians, including women in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where they killed 30 civilians. Pakistan recently dropped 8 bombs on a village in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa at 2 a.m. at night. Part 2 of India's response was a reminder of the mass rape of 4 lakh women in Bangladesh in 1971 that was orchestrated by the Pakistani army.
A country that bombs its own people, conducts systematic genocide, can only attempt to distract the world with misdirection and hyperbole. This is a country that conducted Operation Searchlight in 1971 and sanctioned a systematic campaign of genocidal mass rape of 400,000 women citizens by its own army.
The man that you see on your screen is a Pakistani military officer, General Tikka Khan. He was the architect of Operation Searchlight. Due to his actions in Bengal, he was given the name Butcher of Bengal. Tikka Khan adopted mass rape as a direct policy to impregnate as many women as possible in then East Pakistan. When reminded that General Tikka Khan was in fact in charge of a majority province, he said that he will reduce this majority to a minority. In fact, when speaking to journalists, he has also been reported to say, "Pehle inko Musalman karo or convert them to Muslims first." The Bangladesh Liberation War began in March 1971. Both Muslim and Hindu women were targeted and raped. West Pakistani men in Pakistan Army wanted to cleanse the nation of Bengali women. Imams, mullahs and a fatwa from West Pakistan declared that Bengali women could be handled as war property. Statistics reveal that 80% of the raped women were Muslims. The perpetrators conducted nighttime raids, assaulting women in their villages, often in front of their families as part of the terror campaign. Victims were also kidnapped and held in special camps where they were repeatedly assaulted, and many of those held in the camps were murdered or ended up committing suicide, with some taking their own lives by using their hair to hang themselves. The soldiers responded to these suicides by cutting the women's hair off. Time magazine reported on 563 girls who had been kidnapped and held by the military. All of them were between the age group of 3 and 5 months pregnant when the military began to release them. Some women were forcibly used as prostitutes. Such was the terror that a doctor at a rehabilitation center in Dhaka reported 1,70,000 abortions caused by rapes and the births of 30,000 war babies during the first 3 months of 1972. This is the history of Pakistani army, and this is the same country which lectures India on imaginary plight of women in Jammu and Kashmir. Let's start off our conversation. Ambassador Basuti Mukherjee is on the telecast with me. Ambassador Mukherjee, reliving the tyranny of Pakistan on the Bengalis who were fighting for their liberation in East Pakistan, and if you could shed light into the war in 1971 until India came to the rescue of the Bengalis in East Pakistan, things were deplorable.
It was a genocide, Megha. My parents come from East Bengal, now Bangladesh. And I vividly remember the genocide that was perpetrated on the Bengali women, regardless of their religion. As you rightly pointed out, 80% of them were Muslims. And then, even more tragic, they abandoned the unwanted child. They were either killed or they were abandoned on the streets of Dhaka or wherever. Nobody knows actually exactly how many of these infants who were the innocent results of genocide and forced rape, what happened to them. The Pakistani army, when they were interned by the Indian army, there was a lot of talk about war trials for them. Perhaps it was a mistake for India not to have insisted that those war trials should have taken place. They should have been held responsible for what they did, instead of which they were released ultimately under the peace agreement and allowed to go back, all 100,000 of them. Today, we are in a situation where the same country that we liberated have forgotten their own history and are cozying up to those who committed genocide on them and forgetting the country that liberated them. On the other hand, we have an emboldened Pakistani army whose field marshal thinks that by selling his country down the drain, by offering rare metals and minerals to President Trump, he thinks that he can start trying to bully India. It is ludicrous and ridiculous to ever accuse India or its armed forces of ill treatment of women anywhere in India, including in Jammu and Kashmir. In fact, the ethos of a professional army like ours is that it is never used on civilian population. The Pakistani army has been used again and again on its own civilian population for genocide, for murder, etc. The Indian army has a completely different reputation. So these kind of ridiculous accusations have been very correctly dealt with by our representative in the UN, and I think that nobody would ever believe any of these accusations. They deserve a very strong response, and they deserve to be articulated on media like you are doing, so that the Indian public is aware of the sinister designs of Pakistan to try and destroy India's reputation and that of its armed forces. Megha.
General Dhruv Katoj is also on the telecast with me. General Katoj, your perspective of things at this point of time, and as Ambassador Mukherjee said, that it's ironical that Bangladesh is once again cozying up to Pakistan. The predators of the people of Bengal, the genocide that was committed, 4 lakh women raped, and there were many others who were killed. And these brutalities happened back in 1971. India was the one that came out and helped East Pakistan to become Bangladesh, liberate Bangladesh. And in a contrasting situation, we see that yes, there are going to be elections that are going to take place in February 2026. We see at this point of time a puppet government that has been installed. There is increased Islamist tendencies that are being witnessed on the ground. There are reports of these, university students holding protests, these radicals talking about how they must pressure the university authorities to enforce burqas for women attending college. Such is the situation. It's almost like you're turning Bangladesh from a civilizationally evolutionary country that has gained progress to relegating it to the draconian laws that a number of Islamist nations, including Afghanistan, including Pakistan, are subject to. How do we tackle the situation where Bangladesh, which is the neighbor of India, and whatever happens over there directly impacts our country?
Thank you, Megha. Megha, let me start with saying that I concur with what Ambassador Mukherjee stated, especially on that one point where she said that we made a mistake in not trying those army officers of the Pakistan military for genocide. And they were also responsible for shooting Indian army prisoners, the few of them which they had, in the back of their heads before they withdrew from certain areas in the then East Pakistan, which we had captured or recaptured. That is one. There are 3 statements I would like to make, Megha. One, when these operations started, Yahya Khan made a statement. He was the chief martial law administrator at that time. And to his people, he said, kill 3 million of them and the rest of them will eat out of your hands. When Niazi took over, he made 2 statements which I would like to state. The first statement which he made when he took over the command from Tikka Khan, he said, his exact words were to his commanders who were there, "Unki nasal badal kar do." He gave them a sanction to rape. That is the number two. And third, when he was asked by a foreign reporter about these rapes, he made a statement which is all recorded. He says, "You don't expect my men to go back to the jailam for sex." These are his words. Now, coming to the point as far as Bangladesh is concerned, when Niazi said, "Unki nasl badli kar do," seeing what is happening today in Bangladesh, the level of Islamization, I fear to a very large extent, वो नस्ल बदल चुकी है. Those people are not Bengalis. They have lost the Bengali culture. They have lost the Bengali identity. They've lost the entire ethos, which has been a gift of of thousands of years of culture, which has come to that blessed land. Bengal used to be the leader of every aspect of life in Bharat. That was what Bengal was. And now we see what Bangladesh has become. They have become a caricature. They are no longer Bengalis. I think they are thinking of identifying themselves as Arabs. And I haven't understood why. You've got such a beautiful culture going for you, and you want to lose your language, which you fought for. So many people sacrificed their lives for it. Millions died, and yet they're going back on a path for which I think there is absolutely no solution. For India, what can India do now? I think the policy which is being followed as of now is wait and watch. In a way, I think that is the right policy. That there are no instant Maggie noodle solutions to all the problems of geopolitics. Sometimes things have to run their course, and I think slowly and steadily there are enough sensible people in Bangladesh who uphold their culture, who uphold their traditions. I think it is up to them to rise and fight against the Islamic fundamentalist forces which have taken over the country, and to get rid of the puppet who has been imposed there on the behest of the Americans as the chief administrator. So they have got a long road to climb, but I'm afraid this time they have to climb that road alone. India is not going to climb that road for them. They have to climb it, and once they start climbing, I think India will give them support. Megha.
General Trivedi, yesterday there was a news report that intimated us that Khalida Zia's exiled son is returning to Bangladesh to contest the elections in February 2026. How is Bangladesh going to ensure India and the rest of the world that this is going to be a democratic process and not a sham exercise where Islamist rule is going to be all-encompassing?
Megha, firstly, before I answer your question, I'd like to share that I fought Bangladesh War in 1931. So what I'm going to say is the first-hand account, because I fought the war as second lieutenant, and the memories are still very fresh. What we saw, I think, was well beyond what was the Nazi Holocaustic Germany. And when we captured these positional bunkers, there were telltale signs of women, either the bangles or the pieces of sari or something that showed that they kept the women also in the bunkers, not only in the camps. And the story of horror, one listened firsthand as to how they were treated as sex slaves. The point I'm trying to make is that ironically, the public memory is short, and in case of Pakistan or currently Bangladesh, it is rather shorter, because what we created the country, and that country was created basically, there was the uprising by the Bangladesh, or that time East Pakistan population, against the imposition of language, also imposition of Punjabi culture on Bangladesh. And today, ironically, we are seeing the same Pakistani army officers being hosted inside Bangladesh. Why this whole turn has come about? Well, there are a couple of reasons, but one of the reasons is that these radical forces, that time they were called Bihari Muslims, the Razakars. Now that breed has taken over the larger population, of course, through the number of external agencies like Pak ISI and the other elements that are present. The second point I want to make is that, well, India always waits and watches, but we need to anticipate. These issues we are building up, but we need to be more proactive to ensure that our interests are protected, and where we need to be, we need to shed off our strategic patience, or I would say strategic silence, and we need to be proactive because it has very serious security implications. The way trilateral between Bangladesh, Pakistan, and China is building up. And today we have UNIS who have sent the ships into Bay of Bengal. All these are not very signs that can be ignored. So the point I'm trying to make is the Bangladesh is headed for a different direction. That means radicalization and almost what happened 55 years back is actually going to repeat. And this third point is that we need to act because these implications are not only internal matter of Bangladesh, they have very serious implication for us as security is concerned. And my last point is I have operated in Kashmir for multiple times, and I want to remind the viewers who may be in Pakistan that Indian Army record is absolutely impeccable. And we, wherever there was aberration, we have come out very heavily. And why Pakistan Army lost the war? Because they have lost morality, they have lost humanity, and that's why they lost the war. And we did not actually get these, payback of 93,000 prisoners. We gave them on the platter. I wish we hadn't done that. We would have sorted out the Kashmir issue once and for all. And well, that is history. But all I can say is that what is going on in Bangladesh cannot be ignored. We got to be very proactive because our national interest is involved in all this mega.
Absolutely. General Sudhakar ji, again talking about India's role, how can India stop the Islamicization of Bangladesh?
Megha, good evening. Thank you for getting me to your show. Compliments to very esteemed and distinguished co-panelists. I think they give articulated very, prolific manner. And I would endorse entirely to what General Dwivedi said. On 19th of June, in response to your question, Megha, don't take it amiss, or 2025, there was a meeting in Kunming on the sidelines of a major event taking place between the foreign services offices of China, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And soon thereafter, there is one issue which went viral. That issue was the Devil's Triangle. What is the Devil's Triangle? General Dwivedi has explained how things are panning out gradually towards Bay of Bengal. I would like to sensitize our viewers that the Siliguri corridor is actually triangulated now from, there is a place called Damak in the southeastern portion of Nepal, about 55 kilometers from Siliguri, very close to Jaferi Ridge, away from Doklam. The PLA is huddled up. There is a place called Gelefu. The name of the city which is coming up is called as Gelefu Mindful City, about 100 odd kilometers from Siliguri corridor between Bhutan and India. And we have the Rangpur division, Lal Munir Hat in Bangladesh, roughly around 20 kilometers from Siliguri corridor. This is what I'm talking of. To add to it, we have the railway line of China coming as close as 68 kilometers from Nathula Pass. Thereafter, a highway, 6-lane highway is being built. So these are the dynamics which are evolving, and the paradigms are changing now. So this kind of a concept, there is also a new thing which is building up. There is a map of new Bangladesh which is floating around towards that side, which constitutes Jharkhand, Bihar, Orissa, all the 7 northeastern states and the Rakhine province of Myanmar. This, I am not sharing this to alarm anyone, but trying to put the facts for a perspective. In 1971, when the Operation Searchlight was in progress, that time we had the stakeholder as known as West Pakistan. Today, we have Americans there. We have the Rohingya Four Brotherhood Alliance on the lines of Three Brotherhood Alliance of Myanmar. We have these four Brotherhood alliances. One of them is led by ISI. Second one is led by the Taliban. Third is led by the Huji. And fourth one, God only knows. I think ISIS or somebody is leading them. The training essentially has been imparted by Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Mujahideens. Where in Bangladesh? In which place in Bangladesh? There are four militant camps which is to be occupied by ULFA earlier. So now there is a corridor which Americans were demanding, to which the chief of the army staff of Bangladesh he rubbished. He said no corridor. No corridor will be given by him or by his country for any kind of nefarious activities. And as we are talking, I am given to understand by very reliable and credible sources that the Saint Martin Island also has been handed over to Americans. They have landed there in big number. There are aircrafts, etc., etc. So, with these dynamics, what is it that is happening? Is something nefarious which is unfolding gradually? Will ever a meeting in Kunming take place on the lines of economic collaboration when two countries, Pakistan and Bangladesh, they have an import percentage of more than 81% of defense hardware? Are we left with anything to talk it as a collaboration or a military? I would say it is a military alliance in making. Therefore, we have to put our eyes and ears up. Proactiveness means what? Do you ever achieve proactiveness by sitting in your own land? There is time now. The concept of neighborhood has to undergo change. We have to, no matter what the rules-based international order says, if India wants to remain safe and secure, it's about time that we need to revisit the concept of neighborhood, get into the melee of activities of administration, see how best we can extend a helping hand so that in times of criticality, we are able to respond in a proactive manner. That is what is proactiveness, not after our house is burnt and it is on fire. Back to you.
Okay, all right. Ambassador Mukherjee, yesterday the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri has held a briefing. There was a delegation of Bangladeshi journalists that had arrived in India, and the stance that has been taken in terms of the diplomatic overtures or the action that the government of India is taking is a very cautious stance, because Vikram Misri goes on and says that whichever government is brought to power by the mandate of the people of Bangladesh will be acceptable to India. India continues to work with the current interim regime that has been put in place. And of course, the standard statement that India is hoping that the elections are going to be free and fair in Bangladesh in February 2026. Do you endorse this stance that the government of India has taken while dealing with Bangladesh?
Naturally, Barkha, there is no other stance to be taken. The Foreign Secretary of India has articulated what is the reasonable foreign policy of a major power, which is that we work with the interim regime, even though it is hostile to us. He didn't say that. We will continue to insist on free and fair elections. Now it appears that the exiled son of the BNP leader has decided to come back. If he does so, that might in fact change the direction of the elections, and BNP could come back to power on its own. We have dealt with the BNP earlier. It would be a better option for us than to have BNP with Jamaat, because Jamaat, as has been pointed out by my co-panelists, is completely communal and is Pakistan's fifth column in Bangladesh. So under those circumstances, there is no other option for us, Barkha, given the high stakes that have been outlined by my co-panelists. But to say that we will work with the government, we will continue to push back illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. We will continue to safeguard our border, both with Bangladesh and with Myanmar. We will continue to safeguard the Siliguri corridor. We will continue to hope for free and fair elections. And please do not forget that we have the Ganges Treaty coming up, Indo-Ganges Treaty coming up next year. So we will have to see at that time whether we are going to endorse it or not. we are going to, we have our options open. We can very well say that we want to renegotiate it. We've already said it. So
Okay.
we have several weapons in our hand, but in diplomacy, Barkha, we don't openly state the weapons that we have. We keep them with us and we use them when they are required. I think Vikram Mishri, as Foreign Secretary, said the only thing that could be said in the present parlous state of Indo-Bangladesh relations, so unfortunate, coming from a country for which the Indian army and our armed forces laid down their lives to liberate them,
Yeah.
and to have this coming back in our face, there could be nothing more ironical than history. Barka. Sorry, Megha.
All right. Thank you, Ambassador Mukherjee, and all my other panelists for joining me on the telecast and sharing your views.